All right, if you've ever built anything on the web, you know that forms are everywhere. They're how your users talk to you. But let's be honest, they can also be a real pain to build. So today, we're going to look at how Django takes that pain and turns it into something, well, kind of magical.
I mean, web forms. They look so simple, don't they? A couple of input boxes, a submit button. How hard could that possibly be?
Well, if you've ever tried to build one from scratch, you know the reality. You're stuck writing custom validation for every single field, you're losing sleep worrying about security holes like cross-site request forgery, you're drowning in repetitive boilerplate HTML, and then you're trying to figure out how to show an error message without making it look like the page just glitched out.
Yeah, it spirals out of control really, really quickly. It's this tangled mess of code that's not just a nightmare to maintain, it's also a ticking time bomb for security problems.
But what if I told you there's a way to clean up that mess? A way to build secure, robust forms with like a fraction of the code. That is exactly what the Django way is all about. Okay, let's dive into this. So we're going to start with the absolute bedrock, Django's standard form class. You got to understand this first, because everything else builds on top of it. So what exactly is a Django form? Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a super smart bouncer for your data. It doesn't just let anything in. It checks its ID, makes sure it's on the list, and ensures it's not going to cause trouble. It takes all that messy, unpredictable user input and turns it into a clean, safe Python object we can actually trust. And here's what that looks like in code. We just create a simple Python class, contact form, and check it out. Each line defines a field and its rules. Name is a character field, but it can't be more than 100 characters. Email is an email field, which is awesome because it comes with email validation built right in. No more crazy rejects. And message is just a bigger text box. The key here is we're defining the rules in Python, not messing with HTML attributes. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. In our view, we check if the form was submitted. If it was, we create our contact form and we feed it the data the user sent us. And then we call the most important method of all, form.isValidated. This one little call runs all those rules we just defined. And if everything passes, our data, now validated and sanitized, is waiting for us in a dictionary called form.cleanedData. It's safe, it's clean, and it's ready to go. So to recap that flow, we check for a submission, we bind the data to our form, and then we let isValid doing all the heavy lifting. The result is that beautiful, secure, cleaned data dictionary. It's so simple, but so incredibly powerful. Okay, that's perfect for something like a contact form. But what if you need to do more? What if your form actually needs to, save data to your database? Let's level up, because this is where Django's model form comes into play. And trust me, it is an absolute game changer. I mean, this is probably the most common thing you'll do, right? You have a database model for a user, a product, a blog post, and you need a form that perfectly matches it to create new records. And this is where Django's don't repeat yourself philosophy really shines. Instead of defining all those fields all over again, we use a model form. Look how clean this is. We just create a little meta class inside our form, tell it which model to use, in this case student, and list the fields we want. That's it. Django looks at our student model and automatically generates the form fields for us. It's a huge time saver. And here's the best part, the payoff. After form is valid comes back true, all you have to do is call form.save. One single line. This method automatically creates a new student object with the clean data and saves it straight to the database. All that work, done. It's just so efficient. So let's just make this crystal clear. Use a standard forms.form for generic stuff that doesn't map to a single database model. Think contact forms, search bars. But the second you need a form to create or edit a database entry, like student registration, you reach for forms.ModelForm. It's just the smarter way to work. Okay, so Django's built-in validation is amazing. But what about our own unique rules? What if our business logic says, for example, a user has to be at least 18 years old to register? Well, that's where custom validation comes in. And Django has this really brilliant intuitive pattern for this. All you have to do is create a method in your form class that starts with clean underscore and then the name of the field. So for our age field, we make a clean underscore age method. Django is smart enough to find this method and run it automatically during the isValid check. So inside this method, we can do whatever we want. We grab the age that the user submitted, we check if it's less than 18, and if it is, we raise a validation error with our own custom message. So, let's play this out. What do you think happens when a user types in 17 and clicks Submit?
Well, here's the cool part. The isValid process catches that error. The form is now invalid, and crucially, Django attaches our specific error message directly to the age field. So in your template, you can display that message right next to the input box, telling the user exactly what went wrong and how to fix it. It's so user-friendly.
All right, so we've validated the data, we've saved it, we've shown errors, but we're missing one last piece of the puzzle, giving the user clear feedback when things go right.
And for this, Django gives us this fantastic tool called the Messages Framework. Just think of it like your app's personal notification system for your users. You can create these little one-time alerts or flash messages, and getting it working is basically a simple four-step recipe.
And here's what it looks like. After our form is valid and we've done our work, we just call messages.success. Then we redirect. Now this redirect is super important. It's a pattern that prevents users from accidentally resubmitting the form by hitting refresh. The message gets stored safely, shows up on the very next page the user sees, and then, poof, it's gone. Perfect. So let's just do a quick recap of everything. We've got Django Forms to collect and validate input. We have ModelForms, which are the amazing shortcut for working with your database. We have form validation, which is this powerful mix of built-in checks and our own custom rules. And finally, the Messages Framework lets us give clear, helpful feedback to our users. When you put all this together, you've totally leveled up your Django skills. Your forms aren't just dumb HTML anymore. They're smart, secure, and user-friendly parts of your application. So the only question left is, with all this power, what are you going to build first?